And we welcome you back to the home team, coming to you from the Intercontinental Hotel here at the corner of Kennedy and West Shore, where it's the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame induction ceremony weekend. And we're happy to be a part of that. And we want to thank all the people at the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, Butch and Kathy, for making it possible for us to be here today. Been a lot of fun. Jason has been in his glory with all the boxing talk. Normally we give him 30 seconds to talk to Tony about boxing, but he's talking a lot about it today, and he's enjoying that. And we have with us Renee Aiken. You don't hear of a lot of females in the boxing game anymore, or even in the past. And I just think it's kind of interesting. Renee, what caused you to have an interest in being a boxing promoter?
Started me out was my nephew is Zab Judah and my sister. We followed the boxing world for a long time, and at one point I am retired from New York City Department of Corrections, so I couldn't really devote my time to boxing. At that time I would do what you call a mutual, and you could work for someone could work for you, and I was all over going to Mike Tyson fights, and I got a passion for the boxing game, but I knew I couldn't concentrate on the boxing game because I worked full time. So once I retired, that's when I started the ball rolling. And so my sister and I started this little small company, and we started doing sponsors and endorsements for Zab. And then I moved from New York to Delaware, and I met a man named Nick Tiberi who was matchmaking. And a show was falling under, and he said to me, I need your help. I really need your help. So I got on the phone. I'm calling people, trying to find fighters, trying to keep the card going. And I said, hey, I really like this. So then I got my license in New Jersey as a matchmaker under his wing. And it just kind of took a life of its own. But for me as a female, it was a lot harder.
I was going to ask, was it a lot more challenging?
It was a lot challenging because they're not used to. They didn't know where I came from, and it was hard because nobody was like, females don't know anything about boxing. They, okay, maybe they get in the ring and they fight, but they don't know, that this kid's a southpaw, this is that. You don't know. You don't. And what I started doing was I started going from state to state on my own time, watching fights, watching fighters, learning styles, and then I started my own database. And it was a lot easier for me. I'm fortunate that I had really good people in my life that were a part of the game. I started out before the sponsors. I was Monty Barrett's personal assistant, and he was under Don King at the time. So it was a lot of information for me to learn. And I always say, when people were jumping in the ring, wanting to be seen with the fighters and on Showtime, I was networking with the IBF. I was networking with the officials and getting to know them and getting to know the rules. And that helped me become and, have a big idea and have a knowing the knowledge of boxing.
When I've seen boxing on TV and the news clips and all that, and Jason, you probably have seen this firsthand as well, you don't see a lot of women in the audience. It's primarily men that are there. There'll be a woman once or sprinkled in a little bit.
I think there's more than you think, though. I really do. I mean, I think there are a lot of women who love it. My mom growing up loved boxing. She actually watched the old Gillette Friday night fights with her dad, my grandfather. And she was very passionate. She talks about watching when Muhammad Ali fought Ken Norton, and Norton broke his jaw, and many others. And of course, when she and my dad were married, they went to many of the.
Well, what I wanted to ask Renee was that is boxing trying to appeal to the women out there to try and be more attractive and attract more women in to watch the sport? I know, for example, hockey. You see a lot of women at hockey games, and they really enjoy going out. Basketball as well, and even football. But boxing, primarily in the crowd, it's been men. Are they trying to do anything to make it more appealing?
I don't see that part of it has changed where there's a draw. I think you just have to have a passion for the sport, or really just or just to be a fan. You have to, because most of the women that you may see are not really women in business. They're the girlfriends. They're just fans. They're the mothers. They're the people that are supporting the fighters. I just don't think that because I think that because it's such a male-dominated sport, we concentrate more on the male fighters than we do on the female fighters. I've done some shows and the females was the best fights of the night. And it's just like a matchmaker. We're so behind the scenes. Like you go to a show as a fan and you say, wow, that was a great show. Nobody has a clue how it got together, how it was done, who was the promoter, who was the matchmaker, and even like Showtime, HBO, ESPN, they don't really talk a lot about, oh, that was a good match, that matchmaker. You hear it every now and then.
There's the old saying, styles make fights, and
Right.
nothing could be more true.
Right.
Even if you have two great fighters, but the styles might not be compatible to make it might be a boring fight. And I'm
Right.
sure that's what you watch when you watch fighters,
Right.
and you can envision in your mind, okay, if this fighter fought this fighter, would there be a lot of action? Are both fighters defensive fighters? And they
Right.
might be waiting for the other fighter to make a first move, and then it gets boering.
For
Right.
example, Ronda Rousey has made a big name for herself,
Right.
and probably the biggest name for a woman in the UFC. And Muhammad Ali's daughter,
Layla
Ali.
Yeah, Layla Ali. She was certainly a very big name. So it is possible, I think, for women to make the jump and to be successful in that career.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have a quick question. You hear about Ronda Rousey and UFC and MMA, women fighting. Since Layla Ali fought, has women boxing got on the decline because MMA is now such a popular sport?
And I believe that. I definitely believe that. A lot of promoters don't like to deal with the females,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of great female fighters out there, but it becomes a hassle, I think that as a promoter and as a matchmaker, some of my best fights have been the girl fights. I did Carlette Ewell and Sonia Lamonicus in St. Martin. It was a great fight, but who knows these gals? No one knows who they are.
Yeah.
They're not household names, so you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
MMA has really taken over, and it's kind of pushed the girls to the backbone. And unless you get a promoter who's willing to invest in a female, they're more into the guys. They're more into the male fighters.
Renee, what about this weekend going on here? What are your thoughts on what they're doing here with the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame?
I'm very, very excited to be here. One of my close friends, Ira Glass, is being inducted. I have been taught so many things, especially by him. I learned, for me, being in this business, I felt that I could be very successful if I knew everything in this business. And we did a show in Turks and Caicos. My nephew fought on the card. He fought David Ryan, and Ira was the person doing the production. And from the moment we met, we bonded. And he taught me so much about the television business, about just business itself. And we worked together on a couple of projects. So I'm very excited when he called me and he says, listen, I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I didn't put anything on my schedule this weekend to be here, to be supportive.
People are coming here from all over the
Yeah,
world.
they're
really,
coming
huh?
all over the world. And Eric Bacha, I know him very well. We work, together doing matches, and he gets me fighters, I get him fighters. So it's very exciting to be here, and I feel, humbled that I can share in this event. I think it's great what they're doing, here.
Well, Renee, we want to thank you for joining us today and sharing some of your experiences. We really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Well, thank you so much
thank
for
you very
having
much.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.